Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from one of Spain's most revered saints, Saint Teresa of Avila, a spirited doctor of the Church. Join me, Amy Thomas, once a week as we read from Saint Teresa's book, The Interior Castle. Welcome back, my fellow pilgrims, to our study of Saint Teresa's The Interior Castle. This has been just a great chapter, probably my favorite so far, and I hope you are enjoying it too. I am the oldest of three. I have a brother, Michael, who I am 5 years older than, and a sister, Beth, who I am 7 years older than. It's something that only oldest children can understand, but the desire to protect and guide your younger siblings is very strong for most of us. My brother is a marketing guy out in Colorado where he lives with his family, and he also podcasts over at The Follow-Up Question, if you ever want to check that out. He actually coaches people on how to give good speeches and talks, and he's even given a few TEDx talks himself over the years. My sister works for her church as kind of their media/photography person, and she also has her own photography business. You can find her at neonheart.photo on Instagram. Needless to say, I am a proud big sister of both of them. Each of us grew up in the Disciples of Christ Church, and at one point or another, all three of us drifted away. We each struggled through some difficult things on our own, and I think it's safe to say we each had our own come to Jesus moment. Our good Lord is always trying to find a way to reach us, and sometimes he does it in a drastic, grab you by the collar kind of way, but some of us need that. With my sister's permission, I am going to tell you about her moment. It's quite the story, and it involves a locution from God. So we will hear about that on the other side of our readings and how it pertains to what St. Teresa is going to talk to us about today. Our readings will be from the Sixth Mansion, Chapter 3, Numbers 19 through 24. First, a word from Chrism Press, this year's sponsor. Join us for a riveting tale of love, scandal, and political intrigue in Pieces, the first book of the Molly Chase series by Rhonda Ortiz. Set in the post-revolutionary America of 1793, this novel brings to life the story of Molly Chase and her struggle to find her place in a society that judges her for her past. With the help of her childhood friend Josiah Robb, she discovers the true meaning of family, friendship, and faith. Winner of the 2019 ACFW VA Crown Award for historical/historical romance, this book is a must-read for anyone who loves historical fiction. Go to chrismpress.com to purchase your copy, and be sure to use the coupon code Pilgrim15 to receive 15% off your first order. Okay, let's get started. God speaks to the soul in another way by a certain intellectual vision, which I think undoubtedly proceeds from him. It will be described later on. It takes place far within the innermost depths of the soul, which appears to hear distinctly, in a most mysterious manner, with its spiritual hearing, the words spoken to it by our Lord himself. The way in which the Spirit perceives these words and the results produced by them convince us that they cannot in any way come from the devil. Their powerful after effects force us to admit this, and plainly show they do not spring from the imagination. Careful consideration will assure us of this for the following reasons. Firstly, the clearness of the language varies in the different kinds of locutions. Those that are divine are so distinct that the hearer remembers if there were a syllable missing and what words were made use of, even though a whole sentence was spoken. But if the speech were only a freak of fancy, it would not be so audible, nor would the words be so distinct, but would be only half articulated. The second reason is that often the person was not thinking of what is heard. Sometimes the locution even comes unexpectedly during conversation, though at times it refers to some thought that passed quickly through the mind or to a subject it was before engaged upon. Frequently, it concerns things of whose existence the hearer knew nothing nor even imagined such events could ever come to pass. Therefore, it is impossible for the imagination to have framed such speeches and deceived the mind by fancies about what it had never wished, nor sought for, nor even thought about. The third reason is that in a genuine case, the soul seems to listen to the words, whereas when the imagination is at work, little by little, it composes what the person wishes to hear. The fourth reason is because divine locutions differ immensely from others. A single word comprising a depth of meaning which our understanding could not thus quickly condense into one phrase. Fifthly, because in a manner I cannot explain, these communications, without any further explanations, frequently give us to understand far more than is implied by the words themselves. I shall speak farther on of this way of understanding hidden things, which is very subtle, and a favor for which we should thank God. Some people are exceedingly suspicious about these and other communications of the same kind. I speak particularly of someone who experienced them herself, though there may be others who cannot understand them. I know that she has considered the subject very carefully, God having often bestowed this grace on her. Her principal difficulty was to discover whether the locutions were merely fancied. It is easier to know when they come from the devil, although being so wily, he can with facility imitate the spirit of light. However, he would do this in a form of words pronounced so distinctly that there would be no more doubt as to the reality than if they came from the spirit of truth, while those coming from the imagination leave us uncertain whether we heard the words or not. But Satan could never counterfeit the effects I spoke of. He leaves neither peace nor light in the soul, only anxiety and confusion. In any case, he can do little or no harm to one who is humble and who, as I advised, does not act on what is heard. Between the years 2006 and 2009, my family lived in Panama City, Florida. We lived right on the bay in these very awesome townhomes. I still can't believe we actually lived in such an ideal spot. Anyway, at some point during those years, I cannot remember exactly when, my sister decided to move down to Panama City and live 2 doors down from me with an older woman who was looking for a roommate. It was my sister's first step out into the world, and she came down to Panama City to work and go to the police academy located there. Plus, it was a great opportunity to be close to me and her nieces and live in a cool place. One night after I had gone to bed, I heard my phone ring pretty late, and I quickly jumped out of bed to answer it. I saw it was my dad's number, and I knew that whatever it was, it couldn't be good. I instantly started shaking from fear. When I answered the phone, I heard my dad crying, which made me cry. And he said, Amy Beth's been in a terrible car accident. They are taking her to the hospital. I need you to go to her. I need you to take care of her for me. I promised I would, and my dad gave me the name and number of my sister's friend who had called my dad to tell him what had happened. I told my dad I would be out of the door in no time. I quickly called Corey, the friend, and he told me what hospital she was going to. I hung up, threw on some clothes, and ran out the door. I had no idea what to expect when I got to the emergency room. Amazingly enough, I got there pretty much at the exact same time as the ambulance, and I saw them wheel my sister in, and I was able to tell her that I was there. Looking at her, I couldn't believe how good she looked. Corey had told me that she had been hit by drunk illegal aliens that had plowed into the back of her car going at excessive speeds. She had flipped, I think, at least 3 times and landed on the hood of her car. So when I say that I was surprised by how good she looked, that's why. Once she was checked in, I was allowed to go in and see her, and I couldn't have been more relieved to see that she was okay. She had like a few nicks here and there. Because she was so uninjured, she was amazingly let go in a short amount of time. Once I got her in the car, she asked me to drive out to the crash site to get some things out of her car before they towed it away. So at like 4 a.m, we drove all the way out to the Panama City Beach side. As soon as I saw my sister's car flipped over, lying on its hood in the middle of the median, I knew that her guardian angel had been working overtime. Her car was obliterated, completely obliterated. There's no logical explanation for how she survived that crash other than God. I had asked my sister how she got out, and she had told me in the car ride over that she'd climbed out the back window. But once I got up to the car, I knew that couldn't be true because it was so smashed that a mouse couldn't have crawled out. I figured that the flipping must have disoriented her, and she actually climbed out of the front. Anyway, again, miraculously, everything she wanted from the car, I found, and her stuff was strewn all over the highway. But I found it, and everything was intact and okay. She had asked me to find her glasses, and I looked in the car and I couldn't find them. It was a little hard to climb inside the side window, but I couldn't find them. But once the tow truck moved her car, I found them imprinted in the ground. They had been under the hood, and yet they were fine. I collected everything up. I took her home. I put her in bed. I called my dad, and I thanked God for my sister's life. Weeks went by, and everything seemed okay until one day my sister came over to my house and told me that she wasn't sleeping well and that she was thinking about the car accident a lot. And it seemed that she was suffering mentally from what she had been through. So I took her over to her house and I put her in bed and I was massaging her arms and back and head, trying to get her to just like calm down and rest. And during that time, she said to me, "Amy, I heard God speak to me when I was flipping in the car." And I said, "Well, what did he say?" She said, "I heard him say, 'It's not your time.'" She told me that while she was flipping in the air, it was like everything slowed down and she caught a glimpse of the night sky. And in that moment, she heard God speak to her, "It's not your time." Saint Teresa gives us 5 ways to be assured of locutions from God. Quote, "Firstly, the clearness of the language varies in the different kinds of locutions. Those that are divine are so distinct, the hearer remembers if there were a syllable missing." Unquote. My sister heard the voice clear as day. Secondly, quote, "Sometimes the locution even comes unexpectedly." Unquote. My sister was not thinking of hearing God's voice as she tumbled down the highway. Thirdly, quote, "In a genuine case, the soul seems to listen to the words, whereas when the imagination is at work, little by little, it composes what the person wishes to hear." Unquote. You could say that my sister's imagination dreamt up these words in her head because she wanted to reassure herself that she wasn't going to die, but she said that all that she was thinking about was that she was going to die. But time seemed to slow down for her, and through all the mayhem of the rolling and the crashing, she caught a glimpse of the heavens and was given a great gift of hearing God speak to her. Fourthly, quote, "Divine locutions differ immensely from others, a single word comprising a depth of meaning." Unquote. The sentence from God wasn't long, but it was enough to get the point across to my sister in a short amount of time. Fifthly, quote, "In a manner I cannot explain, these communications without further explanations frequently give us to understand far more than is implied by the words themselves." Unquote. Beth told me the other day that when she heard those words, she knew in that moment that she was going to be okay. There's that peace and calm. And I would also add that it started my sister on a trajectory to come back to God. It wasn't her time because she needed to return in her heart and soul to Christ. God was giving her time to come back because He is so merciful. Beth struggled emotionally for a good bit after that accident. She needed to go back to be close to our parents, and so she left Panama City. But she worked hard at overcoming the mental and emotional hardships she went through, and I'm so proud of her. I think that voice from God was something she very much needed to hear. God always knows exactly what we need. That'll be all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. A big thanks to my sister for letting me tell her story. To me, it definitely shows that God has a plan for us all, and He holds us all in the palm of His hand. I pray you have a good day, and until next time, live the faith boldly and travel well.